Hello there everyone, welcome to another video on the channel, welcome to another Gran Turismo 7 opinion piece, and in this one's going to be a little bit different to previous opinion piece videos. Normally in these videos we'll just knuckle down on a particular subject, I'll give you my opinion on it, and then ask you to maybe leave some comments in the comments section below on what you think of my opinion and give me your own personal opinion as well. But in this one we're just going to look at a number of different subjects. It's going to be things that are in this game, or in some cases not in this game, that leave me absolutely baffled as to why it's a thing. You know, why has this decision been made or not been made by the developers? Now, if you were to ask anybody, you know, to give you the sort of top 5 biggest problems with the game, I think the lists would all look very, very similar. We're talking about sport mode here, of course, and I think balance of performance would come up many times. I think things like the contact penalty system would come up repeatedly. The track limits, no doubt, would be in there as well. Dirty air, I have no doubt, would make an appearance many times over. And what I would say for each of those complaints which are valid, you know, the top end of the Supra, which is looked at as a problem. Sometimes you pick up a crappy penalty that can really frustrate you. The track limits can sometimes be a little bit inconsistent. The dirty air can be highly frustrating. But what I would say for each of those kind of complaints is that I can at least understand the logic behind them, or the difficulty it is for PD to put those features in the game and get, you know, everything absolutely right. For example, balance of performance. You know, there is a few outliers out there, but in general it's not actually too bad in terms of Group 3 and Group 4. And it must be pretty difficult to balance 40 different cars in Group 3, make them handle differently but still perform the same. And the same with the penalty systems. You know, getting a penalty system is going to catch every kind of behaviour and instant and car, etc. is, you know, certainly can be no easy task. But what I'm going to look at here is just, you know, problems that just defy the logic. You know, I can't get my head around why these decisions were made or reached. And the first of those is going to be the inconsistent view from the roof cam. Now, this is a channel that has looked at the views in Gran Turismo in several videos in the past, and I've kind of given up hope that we're ever going to get any maybe additional views or any kind of FOV sliders to kind of adjust the view to our liking. But what would be nice to have in the views that we do have is a consistency across them. Now, this is really only a problem for the roof cam, and the example I'm going to use is the Nissan R92 and the Porsche 962. They're both Group C cars, and you can see from the image there that they are very similar in profile and pretty much identical in height. So when we go into the Porsche and roof cam, for some reason we're way up here. We look to be like a good metre above the car, and the width of our car is only about half the width of the screen. When we go into the R92, the width of our car is now the full width of the screen, and we look to be a lot lower. Why is this a thing? How can this happen? You know, the cars, as you've seen from the previous screenshot, are exactly the same height. So how have they got such a different perspective? Well, there's no reason for it, because using the walk mode in photo mode, I can adjust the view on the Porsche to be very similar to the R92. Now, I much prefer this kind of lower down one compared to being, you know, stuck up on the roof like I'm on stilts or something. I just don't get why it's in the game. How has this slipped the net? And it's not just in these Group 1 cars. You get this problem across the categories. For example, in Group 4 here, we've got the Ferrari, the Lamborghini and the McLaren. You can see from the screenshot below, very similar in height, very similar in terms of width. But when you go into the roof cam, you get 3 different perspectives. The Ferrari and McLaren are not particularly different, but the Lamborghini Huracan, the view is just awful, and it actually genuinely puts me off driving that car in roof cam. I don't get it. Why is this in the game? Why is it an issue, PD? Next up, we're going to move on to talk about SR and DR. Now, what you're going to see here is me managing to get myself reset at this week's Daily Race C at Le Mans. So going through the chicane there, 2 laps in a row, we managed to run into the back of another car and pick up a 3-second penalty and then a 2-second penalty. Now, the first one I don't really think was that much my fault. My car slows down to 70 mile an hour through a 110 mile an hour corner. I'm not really sure I can compensate for that. The second one, we never really kind of took into the fact the 2 cars were going side by side. I then lost the head, decided to go pick up another further 5 seconds worth of track limits penalties before I kind of calmed down and realised I might be in trouble here with my SR and my DR. and it turned out that was the case. And what I really want to talk about in this bit, and why I don't understand it's a thing, is why do we not have the numbers related to our driver rating and our sportsmanship rating? Now, we know from Gran Turismo Sport that our driver rating is rated out of 0 to 100,000, and our sportsmanship rating is rated from 0 to 99. And we know from GT Sport as well, through an independent website called Kudos Prime, that the game logs this number after each and every race. And you could go into Kudos Prime and GT Sport days and basically watch your progress, how you were getting on with your driver rating. In Gran Turismo 7, we just have this bar, which is a little bit naff, to be frank. You know, give us the numbers, PD. I just don't understand why we don't have the numbers next to those letters. It gives us an indication of where we are, and maybe it helps us to explain maybe in the split that we're in. For example, maybe we're S sportsmanship rating, but we're down at 89, and that's why we're in a naughty lobby. It just doesn't really make any sense to me. I don't think it really makes any sense to anyone, and it's crazy that the game logs all these stats, and people love stats, and they're not in the game for us to peruse. Okay, hopefully this video has not descended into too much of a rant and you are still with me. We're going to move on to the next subject, and it's going to be on the heads-up display in Gran Turismo 7, and in particular the relative. Now, the relative is the big block of numbers in the top left-hand corner that tells you your position in the race. It tells you the drivers around you, how far away you are from the leader, and how far away you are from the cars in front and behind. But you're probably looking at that block of numbers up there and going, that's not the relative from Gran Turismo 7, and you would be right. That is the relative that the production team use when you watch a World Tour event on the TV, and it's far, far, far superior to what we have in the game. There's much more information there to help you kind of run your race, in terms of you have the gaps to all the drivers in the race around you. You know what tyres those drivers are on, you know how many pit stops they've made, and you can also have a little bit that tells you how many laps they've done on those particular tyres as well. Now, that's all information that would be available to a real driver in a real race, so I don't see why we shouldn't have that information when playing online. And yeah, it's just a far, far better display of what's going on in the race. I think it would help drivers just drive a little bit more safely and sensibly as well. One of my biggest disappointments about Gran Turismo 7 is that the HUD is just exactly the same as what we were using in GT Sport when it launched, so that's a good 7 years of just using the same heads-up display, and I really do think it could do with freshening up. And I think a good start would be to use the relative from the World Tour events. It would just give the heads-up display a fresh lick of paint, and it's obviously ready to go, obviously tracks the drivers and the information, and it's just far superior to what we have in the game at the moment. So why is this a thing, PD? Why, when you've got something ready to go, is it not in the game? Please make it happen. For the last part of the video, we are going to take a look at something in VR, and why this is a thing in the game, I have no idea, or why it's not a thing in the game, I have no idea. But in VR, which is absolutely still superb to play, I must say, still probably the best experience you can have of driving in Gran Turismo, there is a fundamental problem when you try to race in a race, or indeed in sport mode, and that is the lack of an actual relative at all. So in the previous section we were like, well, there is a better relative out there than the one that we have, why are we not using it? In VR, you do not have a relative at all. It means you have no idea who's in front or behind you, or really what's going on in the race as you drive, and yeah, it's very, very frustrating. Now, what you're seeing on screen here is my kind of rather inelegant solution. So using the eye tracking technology, I think it'd be easy for them if you were to maybe look up at the sky for the relative to pop in, or indeed down into the cockpit, as you just seen there. It'd be a solution to a problem that shouldn't have been a problem in the first place, and then maybe they come up with something a little bit more elegant in the future. But yeah, it's just something that I don't understand how it happened, why they thought that people driving in VR didn't need that information. It can be an immersion thing, because if you look at where the lap time is in the gear and the position, that's right in the middle of the screen, that's in your eye line for the entire time you're in VR, so it can't be an immersion kind of factor. Yeah, it baffles me, just baffles me. A little bit of a preview here of next week's Daily Race C, by the way. The SR3 Radicals around Road Atlanta. It's had a frosty reception in chats and streams that I've been sort of lurking in. But having driven the car a few laps around the track, I must say it's a lot of fun. Actually, I think it might be a little bit of a sleeper hit. But yeah, we'll wrap the video up there. These are the things that just leave me baffled as to why they made it into the game, or indeed have not made it into the game. There would have been a few other things we could have taken a look at. We could have looked at why there's no wet weather for all the tracks, why it is their car categorisation still so bad. For example, mixing the Group C cars with the LMP1 hybrids. All this just leaves you asking why. And in most cases, it doesn't have to be a thing. Shouldn't be a factor. But yeah, these are the 4 little things that kind of niggle me. The inconsistent roof cam view. Why am I at a completely different angle, even though my car looks identical? Why have I got no numbers attached to my SR and my DR? Why are we not using the World Tour relative? And why do we have no relative whatsoever in VR? These things just baffle me. They leave me asking the question why. And I shall leave the video there. Please do hit that like button. Please do hit that subscribe button. Feel free to leave a comment below. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye now.